We are about to get an update now on some caregivers who arrived in the island in March with about 58 or 59 Haitian orphans. We have on the line international human rights attorney and founder of Freedom Imaginaries, Malene Alleyne. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide this morning. We're getting information, Miss Alleyne, that 14 caregivers who arrived in the island in March with those severely disabled orphans have been sent back to Haiti. Are you able to confirm if this is so?
Yes, I'm able to confirm, and I want to make very clear that the situation is extremely urgent, and what we are facing now is a rupture in the rule of law that is extremely serious. Yesterday, police officers went to Mustard Seed and collected Haitian nationals who were there and transported them to an undisclosed location. And when I tried to speak with the police officers explaining that I'm their attorney at law, the police officers refused to speak with me. When I tried to speak with a deputy superintendent and ask about where the Haitians were being taken and what was happening, he refused to disclose information. And when the Haitians themselves asked the officers what was happening, the officers refused. And those Haitians verbally requested asylum, and I also submitted a request for asylum yesterday. But nonetheless, they were sent back to Haiti within moments of reaching Portland, without due process, without access to an asylum procedure, and without access to the courts. And so what I want to say in the strongest possible terms, that this breakdown in the rule of law is extremely serious. It is very serious, not just for Haitian refugees and asylum seekers, but for all Jamaicans who can face these types of draconian measures with no regard for the rule of law.
So you haven't been able to gather any information about why they were sent back so abruptly, it seems?
All I can do is trace it back to what's in the public domain, which is that there were reports of Haitian caregivers missing from Mustard Seed, and I can't understand why those headlines would appear in the newspaper and who would contribute to those headlines, because what essentially has happened is that through these series of events where these Haitians were stigmatized as persons absconding or doing something nefarious, it has escalated to the point where vulnerable Haitian asylum seekers were referred to Haiti without due process.
But Malene, those headlines were written based on what was told to us by the leadership of Mustard Seed. They said so themselves.
Well, then the question should be then, why would Mustard Seed give you that information, especially when Mustard Seed could have made contact and found the information that they needed? The Haitians were never missing.
No, but hold on, Malene. Unless you just because we want the listeners to understand, we were told by Cheryl Ritchie that the Haitians left Mustard Seed on an arrangement that saw them work week on, week off. They were put in a shift system, and so it was just their week to be off, and so that's why they weren't at Jacob's Ladder. We were told by Mustard Seed that no, we haven't seen them for about 9 or 11 days. And as far as we're concerned, they're missing. That's what generated those headlines.
And the matter was reported to PICA.
Right. My grievance isn't with the news. My grievance is with anyone who would have reported that and put in motion a process that resulted in the refoulement of Haitian asylum seekers, vulnerable Haitians who are now being returned to a war zone. And the trauma last night was extremely traumatic because they are giving me play-by-play of being returned, saying, please help me, I'm going back to a war zone, I'm so afraid, what's happening? I mean, what is happening in Jamaica is unprecedented in its scale of cruelty and inhumanity. And it's frankly unconstitutional as well. But what happened last night is we have reached a point of no return. We have crossed the line, and all I can say to the international community, to civil society, to advocates, to any just good-thinking person, is that we have to come together and make a very strong statement that in Jamaica, a constitutional democracy governed by the rule of law, we cannot allow this to happen. I'm not saying that the government must not do its security checks and uphold its laws. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the Constitution guarantees the right to due process to all people. Our international commitments set out what those procedures should be, and under no circumstance can police officers come and collect Haitian nationals not tell them where they're being taken or what's happening, not speak with their attorney at law and provide information, and then send them back to a war-torn country without any due process. And you have to understand, the policy is to not share information and to do everything to impede access to attorneys at law, to facilitate the rapid removal of Haitians without due process. And so this announcement on June 12th of a temporary humanitarian stay option for Haitian nationals in Jamaica, which created a legitimate expectation that at least Haitian nationals in Jamaica would be afforded some due process. I don't know what the status of that is. That was a misrepresentation.
And speaking of status, Miss Alleyne, in relation to these caregivers who came with the orphans, what was the arrangement with PICA, the Ministry of National Security, the government, in relation to them and their immigration status? What was the arrangement for them while being here assisting in caring for those 59 orphans?
The cruelty of the situation is that I am now looking at email correspondence from Haiti children to PICA, to immigration officials, begging them to say, the visa is expiring, can you please assist us? The visa is expiring, can you please assist us? What they have reported to me is that they were given the impression that actions were being taken to regularize the status and that they should just wait and be patient. But what happened since then is that my understanding, based on the news reports, and this is the sequence of events, a representative from Haiti Children went on the news and made very strong allegations against Mustard Seed. Following those allegations, there were a series of headlines in the newspaper which were, for me, quite bizarre, about Haitian caregivers missing and reports being made to immigration officials about these Haitians being missing. And then in swift order, they're sent back to Jamaica. So I need answers. I need to understand what could have been so unsolvable that would have allowed the situation to escalate, where vulnerable Haitian asylum seekers were referred to Haiti. I need to understand why, because a phone call could have resolved it. A phone call could have resolved it. You know, so I have been working on this issue for a while. And I always say, you know, wow, we've reached a new low. But I have to say, we have crossed a line, and this is a point of no return. This is a rupture in the rule of law that, you know, we need accountability and we need answers.
Among the 14 that have been sent back, were there any orphans, disabled orphans among that group? We're hearing information that 3 of the disabled orphans are part of the group that was sent back. Do you have that information?
Well, this is the issue. Because this was done in a rush with no due process, I am not going to confirm or deny those reports because I don't have that information, but I do share your concerns, because what was the process by which it was determined who would have been eligible for return? Because this happened within a matter of hours. You know, I got the call from frantic Haitians saying police are taking us. I get the call that, okay, we've arrived at a location in Portland. I'm literally asking them to describe landmarks so I can understand where they are. And when they described the situation and I saw where they are, I said, my God, they're by the wharf in Portland, and I know that area very well because I've been there many times trying to intervene on behalf of Haitians who are rapidly returned without due process. And when I saw that, I had to break the news to them that you are by a wharf area and you will likely be returned. And then they said, they gave me the play-by-play. Please help me. They say we're going tonight at 10 p.m. Please help me. The boat has arrived. Please help me. They're loading us onto the boat. And then communications went silent. You know, this is traumatic. What the government is doing is causing trauma not only to the Haitians but for the advocates working for them. We're not asking the government to not do what it's supposed to do in terms of, you know, upholding its laws and protocols. But they must afford due process and they must follow the law. And no state organ is above the law. And there's no security imperative that would warrant violating the Constitution and its provisions. And so I have to say in the strongest possible terms, the international community, civil society, advocates, human rights organizations, even the news media, we must come together and tell the government, not in my country. Not in my country. This cannot stand.
Malene Alleyne, have to leave it there, and we'll seek to get some updates from the Ministry of National Security, or PICA, as to what has occurred. Malene Alleyne, international human rights attorney and founder of Freedom Imaginaries.
Thank you very much.
If they were even caregivers to start with and everything. And it's people you have to sympathize. But, you know, I mean, And I'm not saying it's a consequence of, but I'm saying that Haiti children did itself no favors by trashing the reputation of one of the outstanding organizations in this country. And given that the status of the quote unquote caregivers was shaky at best, you know, who's surprised that it has taken this turn? But at the same time, you have to, you see, people like Malene Alleyne, it's easy to criticize them, and easy to dismiss what they say, but they do a very important job. We are here in our country, we are secure, there's no war here in any part. And yes, I take the point, because I made the point some time ago, that not all of Haiti unstable. Port-au-Prince is, but Haiti is a vast country. Yeah, many other parts that not even gunfire there. But Malene Alleyne, people like those are needed, because they are the ones who champion causes that you and I are too busy with our lives to pay attention to. And as I said, you're here, easy, secure with your family, going about your business. So, it's easy for you to dismiss the plight of Haitians, because very often those who come to a country are taken here by somebody, and they are moving under the direction of somebody who will give them certain assurances. So now they have certain expectations. So when those expectations are not met, then it all falls apart. But all I'm saying is, I see some of my YouTubers being very strong in their comments against Malene. People like Malene are needed, and people like Malene are very important to an orderly society. And people who use their time and their expertise to advocate on behalf of others. And remember, she's not getting paid. And if you don't know, Malene Alleyne, you speak to anybody who went to the Norm Manley Law School with her, an outstanding advocate. Absolutely outstanding advocate, and a fine woman. Yeah? So she's doing this not because of aggrandizement. She could have been anywhere in the world practicing the law. And she's chosen to help in this area. So don't be dismissive of people like that, and don't be insensitive to what has happened or is happening with the Haitians. Even as this whole story, Tana, it's as holy as a strainer, and Haiti children, I maintain, has not done itself any favors by its conduct.
George, the story, the development, it has been a roller coaster. But I think there are some very simple questions that still require answers. Simple one: were these Haitians missing? Did they flee the mustard seed facility?
Are you in doubt?
I don't know.
Well, I know. They were. Mustard seed has said so, and I believe mustard seed.
I don't know.
I believe them. Well, unlike you, Tana, I believe mustard seed that they were missing.
Okay.
Because they told us that a senior official who told myself and Cliff in my office, he came here and he said, George, I haven't seen them for about 11 days. So I put to him what was said to us, that they were on a week off. He said, no, not like that. So I'm happy I have a witness, in case you don't believe me. Cliff was there.
So there's that. But then as well, George, when they were coming here with the orphans, what was the arrangement that was set in train in relation to their status? What would be their status while they're here? But what was that arrangement?
That I don't know, but what I imagine that status to be, if you are coming, remember, the mustard seed made a late decision to say, you know what, we're in the business of taking care of children, like of the profile of the Haitian orphans with the disabilities. The least we can do is help. And they were asked to help by the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the Prime Minister, working with the Haitian
But
colleagues.
Again, George, that arrangement was 8 months in the making for them to get here.
Remember, when they were coming, Jacob's Ladder already had its ratio of caregiver to patient.
Right.
You are introducing how many more children were coming? 50 odd, no? So
about
there
59.
You go. So you're perhaps doubling the capacity at the Jacob's Ladder. So you have to have a concomitant rise in the caregiving, on the caregiving side.
Yes.
So they said, all right, so you're bringing 14 people along to help and so forth. So, okay, bring them. So they would have come under the understanding that they were there to assist. Is when them turn up. And I've been told that whereas the orphans had only the clothes on their back, to the extent that that clothes on their back was so dirty from the sea rough trip, and they can't help themselves, so they were soiled and everything. They must have seen that to send hospital gowns out at sea to give them to change before they landed.
I remember that.
While the caregivers, each person had a suitcase packed neatly with smartphone and other accessories. So they were planning, they're planning to come, right? So I'm saying that they would have been taken as part of a humanitarian group, is my understanding and interpretation of it. Even like you, I'm still waiting for the official designation as to what was their status
Exactly.
and what was happening. But Malene said that their status was that the PICA was working to amend their status, but she didn't say amend to what. But I imagine that with them breaching
And what
the
happened
rules,
with that process before last night?
well, what I imagine
Because
again,
she's mentioning emails
Yeah.
that seems to have left things to the wind.
yeah,
There's a gap
there
in
is
the
a
process.
gap. There is a gap. And what I imagine is that if you are here waiting for the determination of a process, the outcome of a process to give you status, whether temporary or permanent,
Or on humanitarian grounds
yes,
for now.
and you breach by leaving the facility where you were,
Okay.
then the process automatically ends.
Yes.
So that's what I imagine happened. But she pretty much said that.
That's a fair reason.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, if that is what it was established on,
Yes.
that's fair reason.
yeah, but because if you're landing, you stay at Jacob's Ladder. You
Right.
should go nowhere without the express permission or the notice of your host.
Right.
And you disappear your host, don't know where you're there for 11 days.
Yes.
You breach the terms of your temporary accommodation.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah. But I wish, though, George, that the Ministry of National Security or PICA, somebody would come and
Yes.
just lay out to us
Agreeing with you.
what has happened.
There are too many gaps in the story, as you
too
said.
many gaps,
Yeah.
and having us questioning
Yeah,
and
we don't want to
wondering
imagine
and
what's happening. Tell us,
speculating
tell us.
what happened.
Why
And
we send them
you
back?
leave people now to add on and take off to the
Right.
story of what may not have happened. Just come in and provide clarity to the public on this matter. Everybody else is speaking except the authorities who have actioned the thing.